So let me put it here. It should work. Sorry that you missed the intro, remote people from Benazir. But yeah, now you get at least my talk. I actually didn't went through the talk at all before. I just put up the slides and put together the demo. So I hope I will make it. Also, I didn't time box it, so like you need to give me a sign when I'm too slow or too quick. And what I want to do is like talking about how we leverage Kubernetes and also the landscape around the CNCF and also some proprietary tools, of course, within our Kubernetes environment. So, and for that, I divide my talk in kind of two sections. So like next to the introduction, I'm already kind of giving. I will guide you through our Kubernetes journey from the last almost 6 years, like 5.5 years. We started to adopt Kubernetes to now having it as an in-house offering for product teams. And then I want to have a demo because I don't really talk about Crossplane and Kyverno in what it is or like in architectural things or something. I really just focused on a demo, how we use it, how you can easily use it to like deploy stuff on AWS or any cloud provider of your choice, or like how you can use Kyverno even like out of the box with like some very powerful out of the box policies to guardrail your developers or even your own team. So like, yeah, first introduction so yeah, it's a nice thing. I just stole that from our communication team. So that's why I don't get disturbed. So Mercedes-Benz IO, what are we doing here? So we are basically the sales and after sales IT or like in business units, so to say. So we are not doing like fancy self-driving stuff here. We are the online shop, so to say. So if you go to Mercedes-Benz, to the website, you can order your car online. You can book your appointment with your dealer. You can book you book a appointment for driving, like a test drive and stuff like that. Also a couple of in-car services. For example, like when you go to the gas station, you can pay with your car, basically. And this is stuff we are doing here. Just as a small intro, I don't want to get into more of that corporate stuff. We are around, like, I don't know, 500 people, I think, in the company on 4 locations, Stuttgart, Berlin, and in Lisbon we have 2 locations. In Portugal we have 2 locations, in Lisbon and Braga. So that's it also about the company. I don't want to bother you about that. And the platform team, what we're doing, we actually started also 7 years ago with having a platform. I joined 2018 the first time. I was with a different company in the meantime, but then also came back because it's like a nice company to work with here. We are now around 50 people. And what we are trying to do at the platform, I know probably all of you heard of like concept of having a platform team in an organization is like to guardrail development teams, to standardize stuff, and to give a golden path for internal product teams. And this is what we try to do. Sometimes it goes better, sometimes it goes not so good. And like, yeah, the core things I just listed here. So we do offer Kubernetes clusters as a service for product teams. They still have end-to-end responsibility within their application. And we provide the infrastructure. We provide them tools for monitoring and performance. We provide them CI/CD. And also all our stuff is based on self-service and like enablement for the teams, and not like they give us a ticket and then we do something for them. That's not usually how it works, at least we hope. Sometimes, of course, it does. And yeah, a lot of stuff is also documenting and giving best practices, like the task we all do when we are at least engineers, right? Yeah, that's, without further ado, only the introduction. Now, like talking what we have been done since the last, almost 6 years. So where did we start? In 2018. We started actually with COPS. A colleague heard of Kubernetes. we thought maybe this is something we can make our life easier with. And we started with cups. Anybody used cups already? Anybody using it in production? So like I liked it a lot back in the day when you have like 2 clusters, right? So it's like so easy. You have like a YAML file. You define what your clusters look like. You define your provider, what it needs to have, and then it's just cluster upgrade, a rolling upgrade, all those things. It was really easy to get up and running, let's say, with like a 2 cluster setup. We put our CI/CD. I have actually the next slide for that. What did we actually put there? So our toolchain back in the day that changed also a lot was Jenkins, SonarQube, and Nexus as a repository server. Anybody here working with Jenkins on a daily basis? Anybody who loves working with Jenkins? Yeah, so that's also how we started back in the day when we moved it. So we had it on basically EC2 instances, virtual machines, and we did like a shift and lift on our Kubernetes clusters with those 3 toolings. They are not really built cloud native, so anybody who knows how to operate these tools knows the pain, probably what they cause when you have them in Kubernetes. But how we try to ease our pains, so to say, our tech stack. So we used kops, we used AWS from the beginning. First ingress controller we used was Skipper because some integration was easier. Then external DNS as also Kubernetes landscape tool, so to say. And Prom stack, Prometheus stack with Prometheus, Grafana, and Loki for logging. That is how we started, which worked really nice in a small setup. So, but what happened then? So after we figured out, yeah, okay, it's kind of working, it's more convenient than having EC2 instances and so on with Jenkins, SonarQube, what you name it. We started, hey, we want to bring it to a next level. So product teams asked, yeah, can we have Kubernetes also as a runtime, not only internally for CI/CD toolchain? So we came up, yeah, how we can do that, how we can actually offer like Kubernetes as a runtime service for product teams. So we came up with Gardener and Flux, which was in the early stages back in the day for, yeah, I already kind of mentioned that. You see it's kind of PowerPoint karaoke. I forgot in which order I put my animations. So yeah, I mean, first maybe the kind of requirements we had, so end-to-end responsibility for product teams. So product teams in our organization are able to create namespaces and all what they need on their own. We just really provide the infrastructure. We then upgrade their clusters and providing the tools they need to properly operate their application in a like self-service and responsible manner. Our tech stack, you already see a couple of tools kind of added to the original one. So like the one like the orchestrator kind of changed from kops to Gardener. Anybody knows Gardener as a Kubernetes orchestrator tool? Yeah, not so popular, I know. But I really what we really liked back in the day was you do manage everything in a Kubernetes native way in like having your YAML definitions against the API. You can even create like your clusters with just having a CID or like a custom resource definition, a custom resource putting against the Gardener control plane, so to say, and it comes up. So, and it was also, because requirements wasn't like that clear that we might, hey, we want to have it like open, maybe we want to like open up another cloud provider to our tech stack or something. That's why Gardener's capable of, yeah, just by adding another provider, adding another cloud provider to your mix. And things like that we were considering. That's why we chose the open source orchestrator, or at least a cloud agnostic one. So other important addition we did is adding a GitOps tool to our landscape, because like if you have only 2 clusters, if you have like a couple of Helm charts, it's easy to just do a Helm upgrade, right? But if you have like a couple of more clusters, at some point it's not really you can't handle it anymore. So we decided for Flux as a GitOps tool, and we did add some more things to our landscape, like external secrets for secret management for our product teams, so they can easily have their secret backend, for example, AWS Secret Manager, and then have their secrets inside the cluster. And the other thing, which was like really its kids days, like I think 4 years ago, Crossplane, probably everybody has heard of it, but what we really liked is not open up like Terraform or like guard-rating Terraform deployments for our product teams, rather having like one API for our tenants. It's a Kubernetes API, so we can they can just have a YAML resource definition, YAML resource object, and then, for example, RDS databases are getting created just by a Kubernetes controller. I don't want to go into the detail because I know my time is flying. So we had some issues with Gardener and the whole setup. We did a next iteration 2 years ago, and we switched our runtime orchestrator, or like our Kubernetes orchestrator using a managed service, and we also switched our GitOps tooling. So what were the reasons? So Gardener has like quite a lot of operational overhead. So you need to manage the control plane on your own. There was no really a nice way of like updating, and it was just like a big mess, which was like, when you know your way around that mess, it was like a super nice tool. But also we had some fluctuation in the team, and then knowledge was gone, and then we said, no, we need to use a more well-known tool, so to say, and also get rid of the control plane operation of Kubernetes. That's why we decided for a managed Kubernetes service. And there's also no change of our cloud provider at the horizon. That's why we kind of committed on EKS at the time. So we also, you see, some things also disappeared. So we also found or recognized that like having a monitoring and observability stack self-managed is also quite a big challenge. That's why we partnered up with Datadog instead of having the prompt stack anymore. And what else? And one other big change was going for Argo, because at least in the company, we felt it's more developer friendly than Flux, even though for platform operations, it wasn't the best choice, let's say it like that. There are still a couple of challenges. And what like our newest addition, for example, is Cast AI, because everybody's talking about cost. It's also in our world like that. So we need to be more cost efficient, and that's a tool we are kind of adopting right now to do more or better auto scaling and what else they like bring to the table. And this is basically where we are today. We can also like have a chat over the pizza or like in the Q&A, ask whatever you want. I try to answer. Like from having 2 clusters set up, having like basically three applications running there in 5 years ago, or like 5.5 years ago, to now we have like 3 regions supported, product applications all around the world. We manage 150 clusters and with like roughly 60 product teams right now. And this is like the first part of what I wanted to share with you. So our way where we are right now. And the second part is actually only the demo. I know in the introduction, or like on the abstract on Meetup, I put especially Crossplane and Kyverno as we make heavily use of those tools. So that's why let me go to the demo part, and I hope everything will just work out. Let's see. No, that's not how I'm supposed to do it. It's mirroring. Yeah, then I can work with that. So is it okay, or should I make it a little bit more? Not sure if it's better now. So unfortunately, I can't really like publicly or publish like my steps what I used for the demo. But my demos basically copied together all the open source and all the official documentation of those tooling. So there's not really information here. So if you're really interested and also wanna like have an insight, we can go over that, or I can even send you some files what I used within my demo. So feel free to reach me, or even like after the meetup, ping me on LinkedIn or whatever. I'm happy to share what I'm sharing here. Unfortunately, I don't really have a platform to share it openly in the wild. So yeah, what I have, let me show the cluster first. So maybe you have seen it. Is it like this? No, like this. So I hope you can see what I'm saying. So we have a cluster. It's really super basic, an EKS cluster. I only deployed Kubernetes and Crossplane. What I also did is like I did for the demo, I did add one provider for Crossplane. It's a S3 provider because I want to deploy a S3 bucket with Kubernetes for my application. And the first thing, and the other thing, let me show you what policies. I have one default policy currently deployed from Kubernetes. They have like also a policy package you can use out of the box.
Excuse me, can you please maybe increase the size?
Sure, sorry. It's better? Yeah, sure. Sorry. Yeah. Anybody use Kubernetes in this round, or like the rare? So yeah, we are using it. We are also using some of the default stuff. Some of the stuff we customized, and we also like put our own policies there. One from the default stack, you can easily deploy the privilege escalation. So you all know the nice security context field in your Kubernetes deployments, right? And Kubernetes can make sure that you really use this field in your deployments. So when I now try to, what I want to try to do is also I have like a small index HTML file I really want to show, deploy it with Nginx. So what I have here, or what I need is creating the config map. I already did it before, so let me try to maybe the initial one also. And I'm not sure, somehow my linter like kicked in. That's why some things might be come up red now. Yeah, you see, so it already like complains about not having security context and something like that, but it's a valid YAML file, so don't worry about the red lines. But this is kind of what you get if you look like how do you deploy an Nginx pod in Kubernetes. This is probably what you find on Stack Overflow or like in the Kubernetes documentation. You have some requests and limits. You have like the thing, and this is not this is not supposed to be here. That's good that I went over that before the demo. So when I now try to, it's also not, sorry for the mess. So when I now try to deploy that file, here. Yeah, I had it in my guide. So I get an error, and yeah, sorry. And if it's too small, I can also make it bigger, or I can also, so I try to deploy the deployment. You see also I have a service I create with my deployment then I can show you that, but the deployment fails because Kubernetes, the webhook hits in and says, hey, there's something not set on your deployment file. Please be, this is what you need to set. Otherwise, you can't deploy that file to the Kubernetes API and to the control plane itself. So what is the fix? I mean, it's actually quite self-explanatory. You need to set a security context. you need to set the allow privilege escalation to false because we don't want to do privilege escalation within our pod as a security measure. So I prepared the next step in here already. Let me scroll down. Again, please don't mind those red lines, but I set a security context now in here with allow privilege escalation false. This is also something you find defaultly in the documentation. And now when I just apply this file, this one, it should go through. So let's check on KNS what's happening here. Sorry. Let me just go for the so it's nice because I don't leave that namespace anymore. So now I have two Nginx pods running, serving like the nice one pager I just showed you. And if I go now, and now I forgot to, let me check if I have the public IP of the node, otherwise I need to connect to AWS, sorry. No, here, there you go. So, and now what's actually happening there is when I try to go to that, I have a nice one pager for the meetup. But we all ask ourselves, where's pizza, right? So I would like to have pictures, and I would have liked to have pictures persistently in my application. So why not having an S3 bucket, put some pictures there, and then embed in our one pager here? We can easily do that with cosplay. So another thing, and we can go into the details, and also as a, I don't know, the second talk might be a bit shorter. We can also do a Q&A even after the pizza went through the setting of the demo if you are interested, because now I know it's like quite quick and quite a lot of information. But what you can do in Crossplane is they have the concept of compositions, and like you can define your own API for Kubernetes. Here you see I defined my awesome API. I want to have an S3 bucket with custom settings. For example, I don't know, some ACL rules or like some policies, some access policies you can predefine, and you can just put into in your composition, and what your development team, and like for example in our case only will see is having this file. So they only care about, yeah, I want to have S3 and I want to name it somehow, and I also want to write a secret to maybe some file to maybe like on, for example, if you create an RDS database, you will want to have your master database, master password or something. You can write it directly into a secret. Or for S3, it also makes sense to have the ARN or like the name, so you can just read out of the secret and you don't need to change your application, and it's more dynamically set up. I actually wanted to do that. I didn't get to that, sorry. Again, about the last minute demonstration I'm using here. No, sorry. So what I can do now is creating that bucket. So, sorry. Exactly. So I have a bucket created. Also, if I do like S3, no, there's like plenty of buckets now. No. No, because there's like the bucket, I just created it. So I want to put a picture there. I have like a command prepared for copying a picture there, because we all are eager for having some pizza. So I just copy over a picture in there, which I want to embed. And then, like, if we check my deployment, what I'm doing, it's not the nicest way. Usually you would like go through a SDK, through your application, picking up the picture, or like picking up whatever you put there. But what I'm doing is like just put a init container, I copy the picture on a persistent volume, and then just read it out for my one-liner here, or like my one pager, sorry. So, no, again. So I updated the Nginx configuration. I'm still having, of course, my security context here. Otherwise, Kubernetes would complain again. No. the account is getting cleared afterwards anyway. But yeah, this is what I did. And now if I refresh my one-pager here, we should have pizza. But I intended the pun would be a bit more on time. But anyhow, let's wait 5 more minutes to have it in real time set up here. This time we can use for some question of the talk. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, you said you are managing 150 EKS clusters now,
Yeah.
right? Which is quite a lot. Can you maybe elaborate a bit how you manage them? Are you using like Terraform, CloudFormation, something like that, and also how you do upgrade paths? So, for example,
Yeah.
you're having a set of test clusters where you first do first version upgrades and then the other ones, or maybe.
Yeah. Testing is a good point because it's a big challenge currently. But yeah, we have a Terraform setup with like our cluster setup, and we use GitHub Actions runners to run our Terraform code against those clusters, and we have like pipelines which like trigger more pipelines. Then, for example, if we roll out an update, an AMI update or something, then it triggers, I don't know, 50 pipelines, and then this is getting rolled out. We are pipelining, we are using CI/CD, which you probably shouldn't do in our days anymore, and we're also looking in other options. But currently, we have like a big set of Terraform code, which is also quite customizable. If like, for example, different node types are needed for different teams, or say, usually like the requirements are quite harmonized, or like not really differing from each other. But if there are like, of course, certain teams with like special requirements we need to take care of, and it's then also a challenge to do that. But using Terraform, GitHub Actions, and then doing like a lot of plumbing around those pipelines. And maybe one thing we are looking into and adopting Cast AI, we are looking maybe because they have a mechanism, maybe, sorry if I'm getting called because I need to pay attention to the pizza. So what you can do with Cast, I have like an automated node rotation setup because I also calculate what's the most cost-efficient setup on your cluster. And we try to leverage on that to, for example, do cluster updates as well implicitly. So we just update a version, and then when you rotate your nodes anyway because of FinOps or because of cost efficiency, then a new node would become up. But like this is like future music. Currently, it's very basic Terraform setup. And like our landscape, as I showed with Crossplane and like Kubernetes and like a lot of other stuff, the Ingress controllers we deploy for our tenants, for our product teams. We currently do via Argo. So we have like also big Argo setup just to deploy our landscape. And there we use like a GitOps approach, and we need to look into maybe do similar approach for our code as well. Yeah. Or like, does it answer your question? Sorry.
So, it does answer my question.
Yeah.
One thing, well, Crossplane can do EKS clusters too, so.
True. Yeah.
Use Terraform.
would be also one thing.
The other thing is regarding Cast AI. If you use it for cost forecasting and have it automatically calculate which is the cheapest node, will this also pay regard to kind of reservations you made?
Like,
if you have a prepaid amount of reservations on AWS, which you have to pay anyhow, will Cast AI put that into?
I don't know, to be honest. I can imagine that they have like some solution for your reservations, but I don't know because our move is more like like in the long run, probably using spot instances, at least for everything we can, and then get also rid of the need of reservations in the end, right? But I don't know their pricing model and also the capabilities there. But what you can do, for example, is similar to any other autoscaler tool or like Carpenter or something. You can define what instance types you use. So if you have like reservations for a specific instance type, you can just make sure just this one is getting used or something, right? Yeah.
Have you seen any challenges with cross-plane and state management, considering the amount of clusters that you're running?
I mean,
Like, are you backing up, like you're running Valero to back up clusters to persist state in the case where clusters would fail?
no. Or like, I'm not 100% sure if I can answer that also correctly. So, but what we do and what our tenants have is like a strict GitOps also approach for their application. I know that is like in a different question than the state, because if like the state is lost, what I usually see when you use crossplane, it's capable of picking up a resource which is already there. So if you have like a resource definition or like a resource object defined in code via GitOps, like in your Argo application or whatsoever, and then redeploy it. And there I'm not 100% sure, so don't put me on that. That like if you, for example, like now if I have a S3 bucket, I try to create the same one, you can make crossplane pick that up.
Yeah, I think it does that through like
Yeah.
tag things, but like if those things.
It's a pizza. It's a pizza. Hi. So, ja, genau. Können einfach klingeln bei Mercedes-Benz. Oder wo seid ihr? Achso, ja, dann, warte mal, warte mal kurz, eine Sekunde.
You guys, you heard what Bertram is busy with, so just stay put. He's going to come back, and I'll ensure he finishes his talk, and then we can break for pizzas. All right, thanks.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's already. Yeah, I mean, it's more finishing the QA. No, not. I mean, it's the QA, but we can also.
Can everyone just please
But
gather around and let Bertram finish
I'm not.
conclude basically, and then we break. Yeah?
Yeah, there's not much to finish. Yeah. I need. Ich brauche das auch noch. I need it for Mandy. Yeah. Yeah, I thought I'd get easier out of that. There was a question with the state, right? And like this is the one thing that like Crossplane might pick it up. So, and I'm not the biggest expert in how you do different states operations in Crossplane. I know what we have like right now, like a big pain. We are switching the provider. And it's like a huge effort, like really going through all the resources that is like properly like switched from one provider to another, but I'm not really involved in that operation. So I can't give you more details, but if you're interested, I can connect to the people in the company who are more involved in that. But yeah, that's basically all I can say about state management, sorry. Yeah.
I'll be the guy and ask another question.
Yeah.
All right, so Crossplane, talking about Crossplane. We played around with it and adopted it more or less, not for production, 2 years ago. And we pretty fast run into limitations of it. I can't imagine what limitations it had 4 years ago. So what were main challenges and how did you overcome them?
That's also a hard one. Yeah, I mean the main, like where the limitations of resources which they support, right? So this is like the biggest limitation you have. So we kind of worked with what they got, and if really something else was needed, we did it like as the ownership of the platform. Like I don't know, product teams create a ticket, and then we just do it without Crossplane. So like taking up their or like taking the pain of them for creating those resources. And yeah, I can't really elaborate more on that. So this is how it started. I know it like went more and more mature with like supporting more stuff. And yeah, this is basically, I don't want to be more inconcrete about the answer. That's why I can't really tell more. But maybe, yeah, something comes to mind. But yeah, it got its limitation. As initially said, what we really liked is having the common interface as a Kubernetes API for product teams. So they don't need to care of Terraform or any other language, which you also then like kind of guardrail with creating some kind of modules. I mean, in the end, it's always the same, right? You want to create pre-created packages with some guidelines, and they just have like, best case, like a simple set of YAML file or code, and then they're happy with their database or whatever. Yeah.
How long did it take you to kind of create your own branch of the AWS provider to prevent Crossplane from swamping your Kubernetes with created objects, API objects?
Yeah, no, now I get. Well, yeah, it's a pain, especially if you use Argo. If you handle CRD through Argo, it's like a huge pain because then you have like.
No, not really. What I mean is that prior to the new community, to last release, like about half a year ago, Crossplane, if you install the AWS provider, it would create an API resource for every AWS resource it knows of.
Yeah.
So everything you can have on AWS will be created in there, like thousands of API objects, which would cripple the API, the control cluster. So that's why we learned it's a usual way to branch off the original AWS provider and comment out everything that you don't need these resources, and If you need them, comment them in and do it.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the things we currently migrate away from the like community provider is, I think, exactly the reason, because I think the upbound, the official upbound provider does have providers for each service, right? And then have
They split it in the
exactly.
public.
So this is one big reason for doing that. There are other reasons as well. As said, I'm like, for me, within the team, I'm more on, like, on the Kubernetes operation side. So all those questions would go to the person who takes care of, like, all those pains our product teams have with, like, onboarding their stuff. And I, unfortunately, can't go into detail there. I just, but now, like, this is a big point, the CID, like the custom resources, having hundreds of them. And that's why I'm also mentioning Argo. If you do it through Argo and then do it for hundreds and clusters, you know your controllers go haywire. Yeah.
Talking about Argo, what was your main reason switching from Flux to Argo?
I don't want to be too bad about it, but I think it was the UI. As it always is, yeah. Because I mean, it's also, I think it makes sense for like from a developer view. It's more nice to have only your application. You can then define what you have there and then see what is deployed and then also reconcile through that. So I get it from a development point of view, or like product team developer point of view, that it's like an easy to use tool. That's why that was the main focus here. But especially within the platform adopting it, we have kind of our pain points. Some, for example, what we just mentioned, where it's like those things. I think those things are more easy to handle in Flux. But we are also looking into alternatives for just deploying our landscape. But we are not there yet. And as we have like a kind of dedicated team taking care of the CI, or like of the CI/CD, like CD part of the CI/CD, then yeah, we are just using it internally. But that was the main. But it's also something I also need to be honest. As I mentioned in the introduction, I wasn't in the company for roughly a year, and so it was like done through that time, and there are like some changes also were made, and that's why I can't comment on all the details. So I don't want to. That's why I don't want to be be like. But yeah, I think that was the main reason. And if there are others, we can talk over them over beer. So. And you know, okay. You all are hungry, right? So then, yeah, let's have the pizza. And then if there's also more time later on, or like we want to go through over the demo setup, if you're interested, we can just go. Yeah. Then. Yeah. Halt, stopp.
suggest you right after me.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have slides or something? No.
My what?
What are you going to talk about?
About, you will see the title in a bit. I'll be talking about communities, you know? Yeah, awesome. All good.
Yep.
Yes, no problem. Okay. So I want to take the opportunity until we have the only banner that I prepared for today and quickly to introduce myself, everyone. Very happy to be here on Cloud Native Kubernetes Meetup group scene, right? And my name is Kadir Kelesh, and I'm a freelance developer engineer in my everyday time, but also to introduce myself, I've been leading various communities in different countries, all the way from Texas to Slovakia, to Norway, and now to Berlin, right? And most of you guys know me here in Berlin, also leading AWS user group, another community that we have for cloud industry, cloud atmosphere, right? And here we have some friends. Also, Daniel is here with me. He's also leading the community together. So yeah, very happy to be here, feeling home already. And it's quite a privilege and quite an honor to have that stage. And as I say here, like today we will talk a little about businesses, communities, and us, developers, right? And mostly we will be actually talking about ourselves. And I want to keep it quite short because we have Daniel also waiting after me. But as I ask here, I want to ask you, point to you, why are we here? Why are we not in our warm homes, right? Even on some shitty weather, forgive me for my French. But yesterday we had our session and the weather was horrible. And sometimes I was wondering, like, it's almost 10 p.m. There are amazing stuff that can be done home. Some spend time with children, some watch Champions League, right? Really good games. But we are here still talking about cloud, what we do throughout the day since 7 a.m. awake. Anybody has one word or long answer to this, volunteering to say, why are you here right now?
Pizza. Community.
Community, pizza, great. Anything else?
More pizza.
More pizza, more beer, right? Sorry?
Curiosity.
Curiosity, great.
Mercedes-Benz.
Mercedes, yeah. No free cars, but you know.
But you know the name,
Yeah.
the name, the brand.
You never know, yeah.
The brand.
One of the questions, one of the answers, favorite one is networking, right? I hope you agree with me. Anything else you want to say? Okay, we can.
From experiences of others.
Exactly. So that's another thing, right? As part of the curiosity. And I have been asking this, of course, quite a lot. And I think we have the tendency from our ancestors, especially post-pandemic, right? I'll start with the individuals, with developers, ourselves, why we are here. We want to acknowledge ourselves. We want to be next to like-minded people, next to people who do the same work as we do, to understand them, to empathize with them, to learn from them, and to share with them, right? This is why we are here. This is the community. And this is something that drives us, that gives us the good feeling. I'm having a hard time explaining sometimes to my friends or to my partner, explaining like why am I going and why am I so passionate about it for more than 10 years. And like there are many answers to this, but this is the easiest answer, the first answer that comes to my mind that really finds me the value. And then we will get back to developers part, but I want to like skim quickly about the others, and then comes the communities, right? Why do communities exist? Of course, for us individuals, the community members, to bring up like-minded people, but sometimes community also exists to attract, right? To gain attention to whatever is the purpose of it. For instance, here we are today trying to like gain attention to cloud native. We got the output. Before social media, we were using more like our own circles, right? The next day you are going to the office and tell to your colleagues or to your friends, but now it's mostly about social media. You take a few photos and you post it on LinkedIn, and you're hoping that it will actually burn up, right? Bring more attention to people, to other people from different areas, right? It will encourage your community to evolve, to grow, right? To enrich it. So this is another detail that we have. And then final one, businesses. Why businesses care about communities and developers? Honestly, they don't know. So years of experience, please challenge me if you want, but businesses are the biggest ones here. They have no clue how to interact with communities, right? Especially in Berlin. So usually the way we do, Daniel can also confirm with me, we approach to business and we are trying to tell them the opportunity, like what kind of benefits they can get out of this, right? And most of the time, their perspective is so narrow that they think that they can basically attract their existing users or their existing employees, right? Or their existing reach already. But the way we encourage them is that you can, to those that you don't have interaction with yet, you can reach out. Or with those that you have, you can gain feedback, right? With your team, you can understand them, you can empathize with them, you can ask them the next day, how did it go? What did you learn? What did you like? What did you dislike, right? So we can also come back to business part of it, but there goes the biggest criticism. But once again, like skimming again, rolling it, I'll come back to developer part, individual, and I'll talk a little bit about myself and why am I here right now? How did I end up here? So what happened is, after leading, through leading AWS user group, I was at reInvent, and I said, I'm really curious with cloud native, right? Learning about Docker, Kubernetes, OpenTelemetry, all the other tools. And I visited Linux Foundation booth, and I told them, I want to be involved, right? There was KubeCon in Chicago, I think, and I missed it. And then I said, what's next? And then they said, there is one in Paris happening. And I didn't have the budget, right? I was about to leave my company, and there was no company to send me there, right? It would go out of my pocket. And then the person at the booth suggested me to apply for the scholarship, DanCon scholarship. And I got the scholarship. So for those who don't know about it, I quickly want to say, so the motivation there, the questions they ask me, why do you want to be part of KubeCon, Cloud Native Con, and go to Paris, right? And the motivation I mentioned is that I want to learn, I want to meet like-minded people, just as I told you now, and I want to bring it to Berlin, right? That was it. And I got it, right? So what I mean is, it doesn't have to be DanCon scholarship or KubeCon Cloud Native CNCF bringing you there, but also with your company, you can mention the motivation that what you learn, you want to spread it around. So each and every one of you is part of this community, and that's the philosophy that I believe you have because you are here right now. So that's another answer that you have. Yeah. I think I'm already taking some time. I can talk more, but I will say two final things. So when it comes to the communities, my suggestion to you humbly would be demanding from us, from community leaders, right? Because the time you have here, the reason you are here, it's valuable, right? It's a pressure on our shoulders, but it's also something that is making us happy. So what we try to do is, for example, in AWS User Group, we initiated the AWS User Group workshops. And the way we do is that we bring experts directly from vendors, right? And organizing everything for free. And we're dedicating hours of time to them simply merely to learn and practice, right? Because right now here, what happens is it's not really a criticism, but experts talking, but you don't really have involvement, right? We want to challenge that. So that's one thing we did. So be demanding, look for knowledge, and look for inclusion, right? You don't have to be on the stage for your voices to be heard, to be part of the community. There are better ways for you to be part of the community. So this is something we are working on. And finally, with businesses, being inclusive is another detail that they're actually a little bit clueless how to do, right? So diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. This is also something we are trying to navigate through the community. So we got a lot of things to do. But there is one scheme right now. First of all, we are trying to be more diverse in the communities. There are many examples. If you are curious, I can tell you afterwards or tell today. We also try to be inclusive by using some tools and so on. But I want to highlight finally accessibility. So our next plan actually in our community is to make it firstly wheelchair friendly, but also make it hard of hearing friendly. And we will create a white paper, and we will reach out to our sponsors and ask for their support. And we're going to make every single event we have accessible, right? So when we do that, because the businesses, companies like Mercedes-Benz IO hosting us, when we encourage them to make our events accessible, it's actually a kind of trigger for their workspaces to be accessible, right? So together, all of this we will do. We have lots to learn. Always reach out to us, and together let's build this community. I tried my best to keep it as short, concise as possible, but I hope you enjoyed it. Each and every single one of you, I'll be happy to connect. That's the QR code to my LinkedIn, and anytime ready to talk. Thank you very much for your time. So,
Anyone has questions?
yeah. All right.
I want to sponsor this summer the Amazon community. We have startup money.
Okay, great. I mean, this is not only about AWS user group. That's another detail I want to say. I mean, to not be disrespectful to the session we have today, but that goes with any. And of course, anytime we can be in touch.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have something, to no disrespect, that enhances Carpenter and turbocharges it. So we'd like to get into that since Carpenter is Amazon heavy.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
We'll talk.
Okay,
We'll talk.
thank you. Okay. If no questions, comments, hope it's a good sign. Hope you didn't hate me. But again, thank you very much, Daniel. Stage is yours. Thank you. Cheers.
How do I get my slides?
Oh, I think you have to connect that. Hang on.
Right, so I want to connect my slides, but in the meantime, let me introduce myself.
Here.
Oh, that's Mike.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Can you hear me? Okay. Cool. So I should have slides, but in the meantime, I could start to talk. So my name is Danielle Tal. I'm a PM at Microsoft working on Flatcar. So if we talk, like I would just go freestyle for now until I have my slides. So we were talking about about communities and inclusivity. So I want to talk about a bit my experience at KubeCon. So this year was my second KubeCon. The first one was a year ago, back in Amsterdam. And it was quite an experience. You see 10,000 people around. Second one was even bigger. The second one was in Paris just a few months back. Even bigger, 12,000 people. And for the second one, I came as a speaker. And that was a nice experience kind of being overwhelmed by seeing all of that happening. Small anecdote about inclusion there. It's the only experience in my life where I went to a public toilet and I had to choose between 20 booths for women and the men were queuing up. So yeah, that's kind of tell you about the landscape. So it's, I think it was a nice experience. I was trying to write something about it for a while and I couldn't figure out really actually what do I think about it. But I'm glad to see that there are more phases of, that are more inclusive. Now, what I want to talk about is the example of Flatcar, the project we are working on, which is a container Linux. And how, through that, you could interact with other projects and governance models like CNCF. So that's basically the idea. So we'll dive a bit into what is Flatcar and then kind of how through that we interacted. A couple of examples. It's not everything, it's not extensive, but just to give an idea how we kind of interacted there. So anyone here familiar with Flatcar? Okay. So it's a container Linux. It's a, oh, I have slides. Right. Present. Ooh. Why do I don't find the, no, it's the share button.
You have to go to slideshow. Slideshow.
Where is it?
There.
Yeah.
From start.
There you go.
Presenter.
9. Yeah, we got there. So yeah, sorry, we got kind of thought about the name, but like yeah. So how do you kind of use what you can work on in your day-to-day job, like in order to interact with other communities? So like I started to say, Flatcar is container Linux, but you have a broader landscape, right? So when you come to choose, you have a lot of other distros that you could choose from. So why should you go for Flatcar or like a special purpose Linux? Because like if you look at the example of distros like general purpose Linux, they allow you a lot of flexibility. You could basically run whatever application you want on top of them. However, with great power comes great responsibility. And then you have a bigger attack surface, basically, on your application. Because you're managing thousands of packages, and basically, who knows, you could have a lot of different configurations that people run there, and it comes to like, it's a nightmare to manage that on a big scale. So you have a lot of, could end up in a snowflake configurations, and yeah, just like, could be a headache. So that's where special purpose operating system come to the picture. And what they allow you is like, I'm talking specifically about Flatcar in this example, but basically you could containerize your workload on runtime, and like the image is, the partition of the image are read-only, and they are immutable with the M-verity. So basically, you minimize the attack surface. And we're built on top of Gentoo. So that's like one interaction that we have with different communities, right? So because we contribute upstream also. But the amount of packages that you have is, oh, that's nice. I would have a screen at some point.
It's weird. Just try it in again.
Kumbaya, my lord.
It's back.
It's back?
It's a good thing nobody of us does anything with technology or something.
Yeah, it's like connecting to a Zoom call or Teams or whatever. It's always a fun, you know. No? I don't know. I have no idea what to do with it. Yeah, it keeps you on edge, you see. So what I was trying to say here, you have a minimal attack surface. You have also like atomic updates in this case. So you go from one partition to another. Yeah, but there is some flexibility issue that comes to that because your file system is read-only and you have a limited amount of packages. So, I mean, everything that you could do within containers is kind of easy to run and do, but what happens when you want to do something to your system, to your base image? Then it requires much more knowledge to basically do these changes. So like we got a lot of like, how do you do this? How do you run that? Like, how do you change, like, I don't know, runtime? Then we come with the idea, hey, what if we could do it like stack on top of it another layer, like kind of plug and play, if you will, of system extensions. So we leverage systemd CSX in order to do that. And that basically allows you to, on top of your base image, have like another model that whatever you want to run. So basically you get all the advantages that I mentioned before, but you could create your own flavor of an OS. And you don't require all the technical depth that requires to change the base image. So yeah, another one of those. Just enjoy it. I'm kidding. So how does it look like? So I mentioned it's there is a declaration, like while you provision the image, there is an ignition file where you declare what you want to have on your image. So if you run it with system extensions, you basically mention the path and the links. The links are in the bakery or something like, let's call it like a Docker registry or something like that, if we want something like an analog to that. But basically, you could pull from them your image. So it could just like check for updates and update them, like when it's kind of checking for the updates. So you don't need to necessarily recreate the nodes or like restart them or whatever. But I'm drifting. I don't want to make it a system extension SysD talk, right? But I do want to mention like the bare basics of that, because like it gives you some. Gives us a gateway to another topic that I want to open here. So like I mentioned, like that you have the ability to kind of pull these images from somewhere, the baked images, right? So we have a image bakery, and that allows you to basically kind of flavor your base image. So you could decide about the runtime. If you're into WASM, which is a big thing now, there's a lot of different images that we also have there, like baked. And also you could have your decide about the Kubernetes version that you want to run. And then that gives us interaction to do something with like cluster API. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. Okay, good. So basically, the way that you create images with cluster API, you kind of bake in you have a complexity there. Like if you run, you want to run like a specific Ubuntu version with a specific Kubernetes version, so for each one of them, you need to create a separate image. So that creates complexity, right? There's a big matrix of images that you need to test and provision and so on. So they kind of limited the amount of combinations that you could have there. But if you take this approach of systemd CSEX, because it's baked on top, then it decouple this complexity. So basically, the current that kind of describe the current process of a build in CAPI. And that's like, there's a lot of overhead for maintenance and operation there because of this coupling that you have. Yeah, so when you kind of simplify that maintenance work by decoupling, you could leverage that work. So okay, so instead of linear complexity, let's create a linear model of complexity instead of exponential. And it's also allow you to do in-place updates, so you don't need like to wipe up the nodes and recreate them. Because remember that file that I showed you there? So there's an option just to mention that the update would take place if you update the system, the CSEX service. Now, all of that to say, it's not just like for Flatcar to enjoy that work. One of the things that we did, we contributed to systemd CSEX, an option to have the immutability option there as a flag, because how it was so far, basically you could run systemd CSEX on Ubuntu, for example, but you might get into some issues because until now it was basically creating the partition that you kind of told systemd6 to work on to be immutable and read-only, which Ubuntu might not like if you do it on C# or, could run into some issues there. So that's like another way that we kind of want to interact and provide to CAPI the ability to work. So we hope that other providers would catch up to that. So that's one way. And another thing that we've done is we're contributing Flatcar into CNCF. So, I mean, basically what happened now, we're part of, we could look at Flatcar as a distribution that is vendor neutral, and our salaries are just by coincidence paid by Microsoft. So it's kind of a unique position to be in. And as part of that work, because it's the first distribution that is going into CNCF, hopefully soon. There's some complexity around licenses when it's an operating system. It's a bit bigger than other scope of projects that were donated before. So that's taking a bit of time, but we're at the last hurdle. So cross fingers, or we're in Germany, and drücke die Daumen. So part of that, we created like a special purpose OS working group. And it's a nice interaction between different vendors that don't usually necessarily sit around the table. I mentioned this on the slides because they are a project that already presented within the operating system, within the working group. So personally, like I'll take again my personal take. So like I'm a PM, so I was working on the proposal, right, for the CNCF. And as part of that, it's kind of steered this talk that was there somewhere in the background and kind of, was forgotten, but like re-steered it and created this working group. And so, like through doing something specific for the project that we're working on, we kind of help to create something bigger for like the entire environment. Basically what we've done so far, like every operating system here kind of presented itself and what they're doing, and their approach, and that's where we are today. So if you want to join, there's like, I didn't do a QR code, but you could check the link there and see like we meet every first and third Wednesday of the month. I can't remember the UCT time, so it's in the link. So part of the ideas of what we could do together is like create standardization for containers, or like create white papers, and yeah, basically find topics that we find interesting, and companies that don't usually sit together at the same table sit together and like kind of brainstorm about stuff. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And again, I take that to my personal route. As part of that work, creating I'm co-chairing this special purpose work group. And as part of that work, then later, I started also to co-chair the tag runtime, which have different other working groups. So there's WASM that I'm starting to get a bit more involved in. And AI is very in these days, so there's quite a lot of projects that you could find there. And the white paper published like a month ago, but it's, oh, I missed the slides, so that was supposed to be first. What is the tag runtime? Yeah, basically it's all over the place, as you've seen from the other slide before, because it's everything that has to do to runtime within Kubernetes. So, yeah, so just like a lot of different projects. I could read it to you, but I think you're capable of doing that. And then what I want actually to show later is like the different working group that we have. And if you're interested in any of them, just like, yeah, you see here, there's a link, and under this link, there's a link to each and every one of the working groups. But you could also be part of the tag runtime itself. And we need help with different things. So like that's kind of like supposed to be a way of how to you know, to be lead, co-chair, technical lead. But it's not necessarily the path, like in my example, right? So by joining meetings or reaching out to projects, right? Like, hey, like, saw that you're doing this and that. Would you like to present in tag runtime or the specific work group? There's like also from time to time there's different white papers, and there's like CNCF annual reviews of projects that are, you know, in sandbox or incubation. Yeah, and basically just like if you have the desire to do something, it's very open and inclusive. I guess I'm part of the inclusiveness. Yeah. And basically, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Are there any questions? Sure.
So why did you donate it to the CNCF and not the Linux Foundation as a parent on top?
So we see ourselves more like in that landscape. And there's like something that was missing there. If you look at the landscape, there's no operating system, and this like a container optimized Linux. So we kind of saw that, and we are involved in different projects already. So we have the network there. So I gave a couple of examples, but there are more. Like recent example is like with WASM. So like this system extension bakery, you could run different WASM runtimes. And yeah, so it just like was a natural fit for us.
So it's because you see Flatcar as a cloud native optimized OS, and that's why cloud native is based.
Yeah, yeah. But if for so any reason it would fall through, then yeah, then the Linux Foundation is also a good home for us. Any other questions?
Are there any major benefits of actually like donating the project in the sense of like what the project gets back from CNCF?
Yeah, it creates confidence in the community that it's you know, the vision and the licensing stay open, and that you once you contribute to the project, put your time there, you know that it's a part of a foundation, and so no one has the IP, the intellectual property over that. So it's kind of like, you know, that if you come and, you know, be part of the community, it stays a community project. And I think that's something that is, for us, like the way that we operate, we find it very appealing. So that's why I kind of mentioned before that we're in a unique position.
CNCF, like what is the process, and like what are the different stages that you have to go through? Do you just go there and be like, hey, I have this, do you want to see everything and get it, or how does this work?
So there are different stages, and there's sandbox, there is incubation, and there's mature projects. So if you have like a relatively new small project that doesn't have a lot of contributors or users yet, then maybe sandbox is the right place to start. We're donating Flatcar straight to incubation, which is not the common path, and maybe it's easier to go through the common path of sandbox to incubation, I must say. So I'm not super familiar with the sandbox process, I have to say, because I didn't do the research there. But there is, like if you go to the CNCF TOC, there is like documentation about how to donate a project and what are the kind of checklists that you need to go through. So it's like you need to have a governing model and, you know, stuff that makes sure that you have a project that is run smoothly. basically. And that it's like part of the foundation in a way, right? That it has the same vision yeah, it's cloud native project.
And then how do you jump from stage to stage? Is there like a committee that decides?
Yes. So there's a committee and there's a whole process around it. And so, yeah, there's like, I honestly don't remember. We've been through this process for a while now. Just because of the complexity, it takes more. So like there's a security review and there's a legal review. There's a governance review. There is, pretty sure that I missed something that doesn't come to my head now. I would probably remember it later at home when I'm brushing my teeth or something.
How much time did it take you to go through this process?
So again, I don't want to like to do a deduction from the process with Flatcar, but with Flatcar there's the complexity. It's like we're running a lot of packages, right? So because it's bundling them together. That's how operating system works. So just create more complexity. So the legal review is kind of taking a while now, but I see the end of that. So, or. But yeah, when there's less complexity, when the project is like more narrow, then going through sandbox to then to incubation, it should be more streamlined. So I don't want to use that as an example of like how much time it takes. I hope it addressed the question.
Yeah, it's just around
yeah.
Of like, sure, with a smaller project, it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like because again, it's an operating system, and the scope is much bigger, and it creates more hurdles. Also, like for the security review, it's much more extensive than like I don't know if you have something that does specific thing. You know what I mean?
I can add that there's also the aspect that you need to maintain something that is donated, right? So an operating system has so many components that you need to also have a community strong enough to keep maintaining it as it evolves over the few years, because once something is in the CNCF landscape, a lot of people see it and start adopting it, but then there's only a few companies that are sponsoring work for open source projects, like Microsoft is for Flatcar. So that's another challenge, that you need to see something go from sandbox to then incubating to more mature projects, have ideally multiple companies then like contributing to that so that it can be maintained over, I don't know, 50 years as more companies use it. So that's why it takes time sometimes.
Yeah, it's actually one of the checkbox of the incubation stage, so that you have multiple vendors are involved and are maintaining the project.
Similar to what was called CoreOS Linux.
Yes, so it was a friendly fork. It started as a friendly fork of CoreOS, basically.
Now it's not so friendly. When the company behind CoreOS pulled the license trigger and wanted money for CoreOS, then Kinvolk branched off Flatcar and started maintaining it as a drop-in replacement.
There's a whole article on Newsstack about this, about funding and the history of CoreOS, because CNCF is now monitoring the funding of the contributions. So is Microsoft also behind it, funding the development as part of the donation, or you can answer or not? I mean,
so during the acquisition, we came through an acquisition of Kinvolk, which is was a startup, local startup here in Berlin. And during the acquisition, Microsoft obligated to keep the vision and keep Flatcar to that original vision that it had. So it's an interesting thing, because we're basically employees of Microsoft, but we're working on an open source, vendor neutral project. And the contribution to CNCF ensures that.
So we said a lot of Microsoft, right? So clarifying question, is Flatcar available for anyone to use? Can we all take it and use it on like Google Cloud and AWS, is it possible?
Yes, and also on different bare metal, Equinix metal, use it for their control plane also. So
We use it for AWS and it works really well there.
cool. maybe I'll get to you people.
Or their own EKS distribution with different flavors of Amazon Linux, Ubuntu, etc., etc. Really honest question. Wow.
So we think that the immutability of Flatcar is a huge security plus. So we really like that, and I think we're just lucky for it. You know, with Microsoft behind it, there's also long-term support for it. So you know it's not going away. The contribution to CNCF also shows that again. We just think it's a more secure, better maintained product overall, and that's why we're pretty happy with it.
Okay.
I didn't pay him. Any other questions? Do you want to drink beers or something later?
Thank you.
I'll just use this. All right, guys. I'll keep this very, very short. I wanted to just end with a quick conclusion here. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for being part of this meetup. And I see that, we're kind of back to the same strength that we were at for the Jan meetup, which was the first opening meetup of this year. I hope you like the program. Of course, we've tried to do something different this time, and we also want to kind of change and play around with formats. So probably bring in more panels and discussions, or maybe lightning talks, et cetera, for the next ones. If you have any ideas, do reach out to me. I'm here, of course. If some of you are still hanging out, we can chat more about it, and I'm happy to hear your ideas about how else you could shape the program, and how we can deliver something more solid in terms of the programs for the next meetups. I also wanted to check in with you, and I wanted to let you know that the next meetup will already be on June 6th. So plan your schedules and mark it in your calendars accordingly. The idea is to kind of keep you prepared as far as possible, because everyone's busy, but we have these alternating Thursday or Wednesday evenings for meetups, and I think we quite like the cadence, and we hope you like it too. Any feedback, any concerns, any questions about topics and content and everything, of course, feel free to discuss with me again. As you can see, it's pretty vendor neutral, and we like to keep it that way. The idea is to have as broad spectrum of, as broad a range as possible of the spectrum of companies within Berlin to kind of try and present here. And if you find new opportunities for collaborating with, like opposing forces also in the meetups here and everything, we highly encourage you. We hope you liked all 3 talks today. And Bertram was the one who was least prepared, by the way. But for sure, I'm sure we all enjoyed all of their talks, Bertram, Kadir, and Daniel. So I thank the speakers. And because we're also here in such large numbers, I'd propose, like we did also in January, a group selfie or a picture. And, some of us can take pictures with the speakers as well. And yeah. And that's about it for this one. A big round of applause to you. Thank you for making it.